All right, welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 19th day of September 2023. We were talking about the question of unemployment in the country, but also the measures that have been taken to improve that situation. We were at the point of talking about majority of Kenyans, the sort of shoes they wear. It's either imported new or imported used. And I mean, that's our story, including even machinery. That's the same story. So, Senator Nyonka, as we strive to building that capacity, do you see any serious commitment towards that direction? And because this has been a conversation going on every other time,
yes.
There's a time manufacturing had grown to about 9% contribution to the GDP, then went down to about 7%. The government is saying that they want to boost it into double digit.
Yes.
Do you have any serious policies that are being taken, and even if you're to reflect on some of access to credit measures, is it the Hustler Fund, is it the group borrowing that is being taken by the government, does this get us closer to realizing this dream?
If you look at this, if you look at the policy that the KK Alliance has touted and said, there are certain things we are going to do in agriculture, there are things we are going to do in manufacturing, there are things we are going to do in general industry. If your policy is not clear, Sam, if I ask today, what is the current Kenyan government policy in manufacturing? I tell you, and I'm a senator, I don't know. Okay, the government is talking about they're introducing industrial parks. I'm a senator of a local county. I don't even know what these industrial parks stand for. Nobody has sat down to talk to me as a stakeholder. I mean, you look at cost of production in our country. Look at our electricity. For the last 20 years, I think it's about 20, 25 years, we've been having geothermal, singing about geothermal, talking about wind power, discussing about how we are now having production is going to come down. In fact, our electricity is coming down. Everything we discover later is that we are now having debts which have been accumulated. We've actually drilled some of this power. We signed agreements where this power which is drilled is kept underground, because if they start supplying it to the grid, it will become more expensive. What is it? I mean, every single, and this is why, Sam, I keep saying, if William Ruto can't fix this country, then I don't know who can. Because he's been there through all this nonsense. He has seen all these things happening. We have seen what happens to our electricity. Look at Kenya Power. Look at what they do. I mean, they unilaterally come and, like me, I live in a place where we don't excessively, historically, I've never excessively used electricity. Then they'll give you a power bill of 29,000 shillings a month. Like I'm running an industry. If you go down all these issues, look at our water policy, look at what is happening. We are still fighting about whether water should be coming from Nyandarua, whether it should be coming from Central Province, who is entitled to the rights of that water. And guys are manufacturing. If you have these basic disputes and the people who are manufacturing in your area, if somebody knows your electricity is expensive, your water is actually non-available, if it is fully dispute-based. You don't have a clear policy. Look at the NEMA. Some guys of NEMA can walk into somebody who has set up a manufacturing company and they start telling him how you have not paid for environmental protection and management this, and in fact, and all they want is kickbacks. These are the issues that are making our ability to do business and to have in companies coming into work. Like the case my brother has given. If somebody has started producing shoes, and indeed you go and inspect and check and find this product, and there are people producing those shoes, and they're selling them at even 600 to 800 shillings, why would you tax such a person? You should allow him to make more shoes so that he employs more people for at least even 1 year.
So do we need I mean, because the law is that everyone who is making an income needs to pay tax.
But you can bring tax incentives. You can have policy.
Why aren't we doing that?
It is because that is the point I'm making. We don't have clear policies on anything, whether it's our transport system, I mean, Sammy, how many years have we been talking how Nairobi City needs to have a tram system?
And
if you started a tram system, wait. If you started a tram system, how many people do you think that tram system would employ? But you see, because of the pressure from the owners of the matatus, then the government, but you can offer the matatu owners to be owners of the tram station.
And Senator, tax incentives, I mean, tax is made in Parliament. I mean, it's passed in Parliament. You may not sit at the National Assembly, but you could have some influence.
The government has a majority now. The government of KK is the one in power. The government is the one which comes and says, look at what, of course, the taxes were passed. Look at what was passed the other day. If a government doesn't have a policy to incentivize you to start making watches in Kenya, and yet when you look at the taxes which are put for the importation of taxes, you find there is actually zero rating.
Senator, that is good to say, but look at those Kenyans on that field.
Yes.
There's nothing they can do to get a tax incentive.
Yeah, but Sammy, I'm not in government.
But you sit in Parliament.
Yeah, but Parliament, when the government has a majority in the Senate, National Assembly, and everywhere, then they have their way.
Honorable Wandeto, yes. You sit in the majority. I mean, what are you going to do about it?
I think obviously we agree that Kenyans are facing fairly difficult times. I don't think anyone would denies that. There has been a lot of effort by government to fix the economy, stabilize the economy. Part of that has been very successful. Some you're aware we've reduced now inflation from 8.7% to about 6.9%. Of course, we'll expect new inflationary pressure now to come with the fuel increases. So again, that you may find that getting reversed.
Honorable Wandeto, there has been questions about that inflation data.
Numbers, yeah.
Because there appears to be some items that have been left, especially from the food inflation.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it's reliable, but the specific question I'm asking is, because those young people, there's nothing they will do or can do to get tax incentives, or the MSME sector to get tax incentives. Is there something you can do as a member of Parliament?
That is
not necessarily majority or minority.
That is where I was going, and I was starting because when I talk about a government, of course, that extends to some of the work that we are doing in Parliament as members of the majority side, and there's a lot of work going on to fix the economy. And I thought in this show we have enumerated that very, very many times, and I don't want to repeat some of the efforts that the government is doing in terms of supporting our farmers to produce more, because also farming is a huge creator of employment. If we can incentivize more and more of our youth also to go into farming, that would be a good thing. Some you are also aware that we've also created direct employment in the public sector, 56,000 teachers. So that has also reduced a number of the youths, from the sector. But the point is we are way far off from where we would like to be, because the pictures that you have just been showing us there obviously are disturbing. And it is not the wish of any government to start seeing that mass of people being on the streets. We would like to be able to create more job opportunities, and I think that is a process that is ongoing. Some of the measures that we have, we discussed here, encouraging local manufacturing, affordable housing, spurring the SME sector to be able to become more competitive, to have access to affordable credit. A lot of those policies are what is going to come together and basically resolve this issue. So it
you
is
don't
not
see any gap as of now.
Of course, there are so many more things that we need to do, Sam, and it's an ongoing activity. And this, of course, is obviously balanced against all the competing interests of the country. There are obviously more things that we can do. For example, when it comes to local manufacturing, there is so much that we can do, from things like the value chain, such as it's not just about making garments here, but we need to start all the way from the cotton, say, value chain. We need to start looking at like the leather value chain that we've just been talking about. We need to start seeing how do we address all the gaps that we see in those value chains to then be able to to come up with something that works. Because today the reason why we are not manufacturing a lot of these items is not because we lack the know-how. It's just that we are not as competitive. So remember things like energy. The cost of energy right now in this country, it is something that requires, to be addressed, because as long as, it is cheaper to produce a shoe in China even some of the local companies that were known as shoe companies, I know we were just discussing here over break time, that some of them are not even manufacturing the shoes locally here.
Okay.
You know, it's a local shoe company, but they are doing 40% of their manufacturing in China. So how do we ensure that we increase even those people who already have that capacity and we increase their manufacturing to 100%? So we need to address things like the cost of power. We need to address issues like the cost of doing, the ease of doing business. We do not want those NEMA issues all the time, cabs raiding, people raiding.
So how do you do that, Mheshimiwa? Because I've heard that enough time.
It's work in progress, Sam, and this government is actually pro-business.
What is being done to lower the cost of power?
The IPPs, because one of the key drivers of the high electricity bills is the purchasing price that Kenya Power pays to the independent power producers. There is some effort now in Parliament to ensure that we can renegotiate those contracts either by extending the term so that they can be able to bring
and how far is that?
There is a lot of effort to...
It's already taken 1 year.
How far is that?
It's not an easy thing because, and some of these IPPs, when they came to the parliamentary committees, a lot of them are agreeable to the government extending their term. Okay? So, but obviously this process goes through very many steps. It's one thing to agree in Parliament. You need to prepare a cabinet. Allow me some just to run with it.
Yeah. I mean,
and then
you've had the mic for some time now. Just hold on. You see, it is good what you're saying, but those young people you see there, they have waited for a year since President William Ruto was elected to office. You're here saying that there are plans to renegotiate, but then you're saying that it takes a lot of time. So what is the assurance here?
I think the reason is I don't want to be in this show and say we have some magic bullet that will ensure that tomorrow there is no youth looking for jobs. Fixing an economy is a process. What we should be saying, has the process begun? Is it underway? Is it in the right direction? Are we seeing some early wins? Are we seeing signs of success? For me, the answers to all those questions is yes. Okay. Are we likely to fix it by tomorrow morning? Obviously not. But we are on our way there. And remember, we have to judge the Kenya Kwanza government against the backdrop as to where they found this economy. And obviously...
I think it's not more of judging the Kenya Kwanza administration, but more of addressing the concerns that Kenyans are expressing.
That is what
Which is fine, I hear you. Let's listen to the employers, stakeholders, the Federation of Kenyan Employers, as we transition to the next topic about the tax plans of the government.
And even the jobs that have been created over the last few years, if you look at any surveys and the outcomes, those jobs are coming from the informal sector, which is 3/4 of the employment sector for those in wage employment. We have been seeing a reduction in the number of formal sector jobs even before the current regime came into office. The more you tax the formal sector, the more you make it difficult for those enterprises to create jobs. And we are seeing that.
Kenya lost over $345 million worth of foreign direct investment and other investment inflows in just 3 months as economic growth plummeted over unfriendly policies.
Right, and of course they were responding to the measures that are being taken, whether it's about the cost of living, whether it's about the taxation, and there are those proposals. Let me begin with you, Samuel, on this one. Those proposals by the government, the medium-term revenue strategy that would appear to, there is intention to change a few things, from corporate tax to income tax to personal relief, but also a VAT rate from 16 to 18%. How are you treating this as a sector, even as you look towards what the two members of parliament talk about, what should be happening to incentivize local production?
Thank you. So let me throw in my voice because it's very discouraging listening to our members of parliament, because they are the makers of law. And let me just say this, as we elect members of parliament and the government into power, Chapter 1 of the Constitution gives us power. The sovereignty is with the citizen. And we have been having what we call a master-slave relationship. Because you see, when members of parliament and also people in the government, like the CSs, the utterances that they are making, it shows that now we have become the slaves. And that is why there is no goodwill, even when it comes to policy. Because ideally, when you get into a regime, you do not disrupt the former regime like it did nothing. It's a build-up. And when you look at what Kibaki did, I don't know the next government, why they had to disrupt even that, the financial ecosystem. Now we are having the KK government in power. They are disrupting what was happening in the last regime, as if the last regime was so demonic. They have demonized regimes, like, we are not going to do that, you are starting afresh. You can't do that. It's a build-up. We are building an economy. Your time comes, you leave, and other people comes. Other people come and build the economy. This is a country that we are building. And that is why when you are listening to the members of parliament, it's very discouraging, because it means that we have the wrong people, where you have given the wrong people those positions. Because when it comes to even taxes, we have sent you there as Wanjiko, as trader, so that you can go and sit down. We are telling you we are overtaxed. So when you're going to parliament, what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to sit down and say, my people have sent me, and they are saying they're overtaxed. They are changing names of taxes. Initially, we had even presumptive tax, which is very silent. It's already there, it's silent. What is that presumptive tax? You are told that when you're paying your licenses, you pay 15% of what you're paying your licenses as presumptive tax. Then you have the TOT, the turnover tax. You have the corporate tax. Now we are increasing now tax from the VAT from 16% to 18%, so that we can be at par with the states in the region. Why are we harmonizing that? We have our own, economy that we have to grow. We have our own vision, and it's very discouraging to hear that the government does not have a vision. They get in there, and it's like they are always trying to do. They're always trying to do. Let me say this, Sam. You cannot tax traders into economic growth. You must make sure that we are doing manufacturing and local manufacturing. And local manufacturing has a very big potential here in this country. But the cost of production here is very expensive. Sam, let me tell you, let me astonish you. It's easier, and people even are doing that now. Traders are doing that. It's easier for people to go and set base in South Africa, do manufacturing in South Africa, import goods from South Africa, and becomes cheaper than a person who is doing local manufacturing here. Why? Because we are killing the local we are killing the local manufacturers, and we have been having leaders who have interests in these areas. And let me just say this because it's important, and you have leaders here. We have leaders who have this interest, especially when it comes to taxation, especially when it comes to local manufacturing. Probably some of them are the importers, and probably they have their own personal interest there, which is very discouraging. Let me say this. When you're talking about...
Where are those leaders? Are they in the executive, parliament?
They can be...
You know, I have a right of reply, yeah?
They can be even in the executive, they can be even the elected leaders. Because, look here, Sam, when you're talking about local manufacturing, and we are talking about shoes there here, if, for example, like that person who is our member, say that you want to make the bulbs, why was it that difficult for the government to give him incentives? We even have what we call the special economic zones. That's an idea that the government came up with. We said, let's have special economic zones in different counties. The special economic zones, what are they supposed to do? They are environments whereby the government can come in and say, we are going to subsidize the power, come here, set base, do manufacturing here, and if, for example, your product is going to be locally consumed, you are going to pay taxes. If it's not going to be locally consumed, you are going to give you tax incentives for you to export. That was the essence of the special economic zone. So that narrative came, it was drummed up, then it went down. They engaged us, then it went down. So we are left there, and we are saying that now you are overtaxing us. We cannot be able to even to do importation. When you want to do local manufacturing, you're overtaxing us. When you're asking you, come up, we have even given you our views of how we are supposed to even, to partner with you, because we are complementing each other. You are our leaders, we have employed you, and you want to do business. Come up with incentives, whereby you can be able to help us do business. Tax incentives, hakuna. So the problem is this.
But the Special Economic Zones Act talks about all licensed Special Economic Zones enterprises, developers and operators shall be granted tax incentives as specified in the respective tax laws. You're saying there's none?
Sam, I have documents which can place here. Do you know we applied for a Special Economic Zone space 4 years ago as an association because we wanted to help our members? Do you know the bureaucracy that just getting that Special Economic Zone license for you to trade there, it has taken 4 years, 4 good years. So where is that incentive? You are supposed to lessen the processes and also come and see our capacity. Because when you're looking at, when you come to Nyamakemba, when you come to Kirinyaga Road, you're going to see that we have built our own economy down there. Come and see. For example, if I want to do a local assembly, let's say, for example, of lights, car lights, there's a Chinese who is doing local manufacturing, a local assembly of car lights. Yeah, down there. And he has been given a license, a local manufacturing license, but he's doing a retail. Right? So why can't we help Kenyans? The leaders help us as traders. Give us space. Make it easier for us to get those licenses. As long as I can prove I have capacity, then come and help me.
Sami,
okay. Yes, Senator.
I first would like to set the record straight. My brother has just said how he's disappointed with we leaders because we are the ones who introduced my taxes. My brother, we've been screaming how these taxes are high. Right now, you can't compare me with him. He's in government. I'm not in government. The Kenya National Assembly, whether it is the Senate, whether it's the Parliament, the way it's set up, the party that is in power right now is the party you should be talking about. Why? Because I don't have that capacity right now. We went and voted against the tax increment. And we lost. Now you are blaming me that because I'm in that house, that I'm part of this group which was screaming and saying, let us continue to increase the taxes. Let us make sure that fuel cost is... I mean, the truth is, sometimes let's just be honest and sincere with our country. And the honesty about our country is very simple, sir. There is no country that is in the third world that has developed itself. It is disregarding agriculture.
True.
It is agriculture that you are going to pick up first, make sure the crops and animals are grown and developed so that then you can have what these guys are talking about called the value chain. Look at what we are having. You have problems with the sugar industry. You have a problem with the maize industry. You have a problem with generally the animal husbandry industry. These are the basics that we are expected by now, after 1 year. At least you would find that the KK government by now would have come up with the solutions on these issues. Sam, you heard what my brother here said. He actually says they don't know what to do with this economy. And this is what David Ndii, wait, he can play the clip back.
Is that your interpretation?
That is my interpretation. Let me tell you what. Wait on. Look at,
I'll give it a no.
That is my interpretation. Look at what David Ndii has been talking about. People are screaming at David saying how he's Lucifer, he doesn't know what he's doing. David is saying he's unable to explain to Kenyans what exactly needs to be done because one, there is no clarity in policy. Number two, there is no clarity in implementation of this policy. I mean, Sam, how many times did the president discuss how he's going to set up a factory for manufacturing fertilizer? What happened? How many times have we been discussing? Galana Kulalu has got 1 million acres of land. Look at the way our ability, the food security issues in this country. Sam, do you know today, without stating the exact number, if you checked out how many farms that the government has, ADC farms, if you took those ADC farms and come up with a policy and structure on how these young men can be recruited and sent to Kitale, sent to Eldoret, sent to those areas, sent to North Rift and South Rift, where there are government farms, which are lying fallow. Or if these government farms are producing anything, whether it is grass, the cows are fed, they are taken and sold Kenya Meat Commission. Look at how much money ADC has been making back to the national government. Zero. How can you have close to 1 million acres of land which produce nothing? What, I mean, which PhDs do we need to write to explain to people in government who are designing government policies? If you go to the Treasury and Ministry of Agriculture, these solutions do exist. All these options are on the table. They've been there for the last 30 years. Some of the best written PhD papers are available. Some people are asking, why are we busy making noise about the sugar industry, we are collapsing Mumias? Sami, the reality is that some people have actually written reports where they are saying you can change Mumias from producing sugarcane and produce other products, and you will change the livelihood of those people. But then again, you ask, why is it that government sugar factories don't make money, but the private ones make money? What is it that for every policy success, which is handled by the private sector, the public sector you find is a wastage and is a failure? All right, now we are talking about issues of appropriate housing. Government policy, legal framework. No, if you ask somebody, how are you going to buy this house? Nobody knows what is going to be the land tenure system. Nobody knows at the counties involved. Why is there no clarity? So some of us are beginning to say, like I saw David Indi say, like I saw Ahmed Abdullahi say, senior counsel, and of course, the things which Miguna have been saying. Deliberately, we believe that some of these policies are so convoluted and so confused because that is how you can steal money. The reason why the independent power suppliers are lasting more than 1 year and nobody is doing anything about it is because they are already channeling money to the people in government. That is why they can't change that policy. So we keep buying expensive power. We make sure that we continue digging the hole which we are digging, and yet we can reduce our power to 6 cents per kilowatt. So you don't need Europeans, you don't need the IMF and World Bank to come and tell us, oh, this is what you fix, this is how you do your roads. Why are we building a tarmac road, Sami, at 75 million shillings a kilometer? When Rwanda is doing it at 25 million. What is it? We are using the same bitumen. Kenya's got better equipment. We are using more concrete materials, which are even better, all right? And we are not a landlocked country. But how much are we spending to do a tarmac road? How much are we spending to do our Maram roads? If you make a mistake once, it's acceptable. If you make it 19 times, you're stupid. Why are we developing Maram roads where we're spending in one constituency 50 to 100 million shillings?
You know, Senator, you talk about the question of IPPs.
Yes.
But I was looking at some report and it talks about there's first the cost of investment that these IPPs, independent power producers, have put.
Yes.
There's also the cost of production. They are thermo-driven, meaning they use diesel. The price of diesel has been going up consistently. So,
can I ask you a question? Why can the independent power producers produce solar energy which they can sell to the grid?
Because there's a contract.
The contract was flawed. That is why we are having the problem we have. Sami, the problem with independent power suppliers is not that they are producing power which is cheap, and therefore the government is taxing them, therefore the cost has gone up. It is because the contract was deliberately designed to make sure that eternally these people will continue, and we will know. In fact, we don't have to mention here because of the legal issues. I would mention who owns them. Everybody who's been in the past government, they are the ones who have got these power supplying companies which the KK government swore when they came, after 1 week, they would tell us who the owners of those companies are. Have they done it?
All right, Senator. Honorable Andeto, I want to begin by giving a right of reply, then I can pose my question.
Yeah, I think the first thing I would like to reply is to Karanja, who said, you know, the government is not promoting a special economic zones. And just to inform him that the government has actually this year, I think, gazetted an additional 5 economic zones. So I do not know why his organization has not received a special economic zone license. And because it's a large organization, I'll be more than happy to help if he requires me to take him to CS Korea, because this is an important thing. You know, when someone says, I would like to create a special economic zones for the, you know, for all those people under his umbrella organization, it's a serious issue that requires attention. So,
but I think the question is, you may take him, but the other people that want to set up business in those special economic zones, do they all have to go and... Hold on. Do they all have to go and meet CS Korea? I thought system should work.
The reason I want to take him is because I cannot understand why. Because it is so easy to start a special economic zone. So I would like to listen to why Karanja's organization has been denied. Yeah. Okay. Otherwise, generally today, actually, we are looking for investors everywhere. And this country is actually, the president has been all over the world wooing investors to come and set up these special economic zones. We are open for business. Actually, the more, the merrier.
Is there a split between foreign and local?
No.
Okay.
Anybody with money is free to invest in...
Do you want a right of reply on what Senator was saying?
Yes, so now, you know, Senator, I'm sure has said many things, but what I would like to respond to is him saying that the government of Kenya Kwanza does not seem to know how to fix his economy. That is not true. Some have enumerated in this show time and again all the steps that the government is taking. The statements may be by a few people. Some are not representative of the government.
They are CSS.
Whether the statement is made...
Economic advisors of the president.
Please, Senator.
whoever.
Him to finish.
Sam, I personally am unhappy with anybody who treats people with contempt. Kenyans indeed are going through difficult times. The country is being faced with all these external economic shocks. Like what is happening to the oil prices, globally, and it's not easy. It is not easy for Kenya. So treating them or uttering statements that that almost sounds like you are happy with their plight. Of course that is unwelcome, and that is something that I would like to say on this show. It is not reflective of the stand of the government of William Ruto. But having said that, I think the more important thing is to say the government has a plan. The government has a plan, and as I said earlier, the plan is
Let's take a look at a section of that plan. 1 year later, there is the medium-term revenue strategy, and this is paragraph 78, talking about the agricultural sector. It does a very good job in appreciating the challenges currently experienced by the sector, being weather-dependent, perishability of the produce, the subsistence nature of the sector, and inadequate tax literacy, which makes the taxation of this sector difficult, right? So, to address the challenges, the government is proposing to introduce a final withholding agricultural produce tax at a rate not more than 5% of the value of the produce delivered to the cooperatives or other organized groups. To break this down, if you have a cow, you deliver milk to a cooperative, so every time you deliver milk there will be a 5% charge withholding tax. To make this easy, they are going to intensify taxpayer education to ensure that taxpayers understand their role in nation building and the need to pay taxes. Help me understand, you want to promote the agricultural sector, which has been suffering a lot of challenges, whether it's the cost of feed, whether it's the cost of inputs. But the incentive that the government is talking about is introducing a tax and helping them with tax literacy on their role to build the nation. What is that?
Sam, first of all, those are tax proposals. Those are policy statements by Treasury, and there has been many that have been circulating, from the 18% VAT harmonization to these 5% of withholding tax for agriculture. These are all proposals. They are going to go through the various stages, and they are going to come to the floor of the House. And I can tell you, we are not going to do anything or approve anything that will hurt our farmers. The government has been very, very keen on promoting agriculture. This year, in the tax, in the finance bill, the government exempted a tax on a number of inputs to the cost of feeds, just basically to promote the dairy sector. So the government would actually like to incentivize farmers to produce more. So it is a policy statement that obviously we will interrogate. We will see the implications of it. Obviously, farmers, like anyone else, need to participate in the economy by way of paying taxes. Okay, but how we do it, we need to ensure that it is something that does not then either affect or discourage people from joining the agriculture sector. So we have to look for a balance, around this issue.
What have you said, Honorable Ndeto?
What I have said, Sam, is that these are Treasury proposals. Let them come to the floor of the House. My brother here, Senator Onyonka, who has been in this show sounding helpless, he'll have an opportunity, to articulate his issues, on the floor of the House and say, how does this affect our farmers? If we say every farmer now pays taxes, we have to balance. Like I say, we want the farmers to participate in the economy. Okay? They actually also require government support. The roads that are being constructed to ensure that the produce, can come from the farms. But how do we ensure that they participate in a way that does not hurt farming?
I don't know. Educate me here.
Yes.
This one I don't know.
Yes.
Is there VAT on animal feeds?
Yes.
At the moment,
yes.
I need to confirm that, Sam.
Yes.
Is there VAT on, there's something called maclick that animals have to, for minerals?
Yes.
Does it have VAT?
Yes.
There is VAT.
Do farmers have an opportunity to recover that input VAT?
No.
It depends on the size of the farming enterprise.
Majority of the farmers there.
Yeah, the majority won't have. But of course, if you are running a proper, farming enterprise which has, which has output VAT and input VAT, then you have an opportunity.
So
but I think for a lot of our farmers, that opportunity does not exist.
So when you introduce a withholding tax of 5% on farmers who have no chance of ever recovering that input VAT, what are you telling them? Why are they even farming in the first place?
But the withholding tax has actually got nothing to do with VAT.
No, I'm talking about the tax burden. Yes, it is a tax, isn't it?
And that's why some have answered this question by saying, we will not pass anything that will discourage our farmers from farming, because it's a sector we want to grow.
But they've said that
Treasury will come up with proposals. We will interrogate those proposals. However,
here they are.
However, they are there. However, I've said, how do we balance with the farmers?
Sammy,
also
why would that be there?
How do we balance with the farmers also participating?
Why would that thing be in that thing you are reading? Why is it there?
Sam, Onyonka knows that even in the last finance bill, there were many proposals that were actually dropped by the House.
But you still, they told us the government never loses.
Senate.
Why is that thing? You are reading that thing from there. That's a report the government is going to table, right? It's coming to my committee.
Yeah.
Why are they putting it there if it's not reality?
Let me hear from Samuel here.
Yes.
Your thoughts about some of these proposals in the medium-term revenue strategy.
You see, it's very discouraging when you hear some of these proposals. Now, when you're talking about my mother, who is a dairy farmer in Muranga, we are talking of her being taxed, especially in animal feeds, right? When I went there's a time, I think it was 2014, they were selling milk to the brokers. So I decided to organize our village and just have something very organized in our village. So I got my mother and plus other 70 traders. And so we decided to bring together our milk and sell it in a more corporate way. And let me tell you, the moment we did that, then the economy of the village started growing. But now we needed now to formalize and probably come up with a society or something that can be able to have posterity. We didn't have any support, especially even in the agriculture sector, because you even have an agriculture office in Muranga, right? Whereby if you see farmers who are very organized, we even went to one of the financial institutions and opened accounts for each and every one of them, so that the milk that we are selling out there, they can get small loans to pay school fees for their children, small loans to be able to take care of them. So from us, we are even trying to help the agri-business, but you see now the government doesn't have a goodwill. Now, if you are taxing now agri-business, whereby now most of the young people who you have seen there can be able even to go back to the village, in that small land they can be able to trade, to do farming and also trade, it becomes very, very discouraging. Secondly, Sam, let me point out something that Mheshimiwa said about even value addition. The special economic zones, we don't, when for example you're gazetting 5 special economic zones, give me 2 of them which are fully functional. Let's go there. Let's not even say 3, 2. So where we go there, people have set their manufacturing plants, people are doing manufacturing. And you see, Sammy, when you have the special economic zones, let's say even in Muranga, even in Tetu, you see you'll find value addition there. So I bring my milk to the special economic zone, I make cheese, I make yogurt, then I start selling to other counties. So we are talking about, there are those policies which are there and they are good on paper, but when it comes to implementation, it's wanting. Lastly but not least, when you're talking about the Mheshimiwa saying that when it goes to the floor of the House, they are going to shoot it down. The government is looking for money seriously. And if any avenue that the government will see to get money from traders and from even the people in agriculture, they are going to take that opportunity. And it's very discouraging because number one, we are feeding an economy, we are feeding a government that is bloated. If there was a goodwill of this government, they could not even the CSs. We are looking, the consumption of the government is higher than the production that we are producing. So we are the producers even, and we are the taxpayers. But the consumption of the government itself, how much money that we pay in taxes goes back to helping us, the people who pay taxes, how much money. So you're looking at the way the government is spending this money. So they are pushing us to pay more taxes, to feed into a budget that they have inflated. We are carrying that burden. Why should we carry that burden? If there was a goodwill of members of parliament, one of the things that should happen is, especially in the ones who are in government, let me clarify that. One thing that should happen is, what is the expenditure of this government? You should now make it leaner. Sammy, if you're given a salary of 200,000 or 150,000, why do you want to live a life of 500,000? That's what the government is doing. The budget is so inflated, and this is what you are collecting taxes. And do you know what they are doing? We are seeing the government is borrowing 411 billion shillings locally. Do you know what that means, Sammy? It means that the government is competing with me SMEs to borrow money.
How much again?
411 billion locally. 411 billion.
I thought they changed that. Because the deficit was 718.
That is the domestic borrowing that the government is doing.
No, the deficit for the current financial year was 718. Initially, they were to borrow locally 586. This has been brought down to about
300, I think, and 16 or something.
Yeah, and then so the bigger chunk has been taken to foreign.
Even if it's even if it's 300 billion.
Yeah.
Even if it's 200 billion, even if it's 100 billion, who are they competing with? They are competing with traders, right? Because when the government is borrowing money from domestic, they are borrowing in the commercial banks. That means that they are, obviously the commercial banks are going to gravitate towards them because there are no defaults, right? The government is going to pay you in good time. They even do overnight borrowing at very good interest rates. So me as Karanja, when I'm going there to borrow money, who are they going to gravitate to? Is it the SME or is it the government? That's the question.
So there has been the Hustler Fund for groups.
Sami, Hustler Fund is another story. Hustler Fund is another story. And let me say it because you are the people on the grassroots. Yeah. Hustler Fund is another story. When you're doing the Hustler Fund, tell me, Mheshimiwa, because we tried even borrowing. Tell me, Mheshimiwa, what business can you start with 600 shillings?
Very
in the economy that we are in today.
Very many.
Hata kama ni njugu. Hata kama ni njugu.
Where fuel is 200 shillings a liter.
If a person down there cannot be able to afford a meal, that means if I start a business with this 600 shillings, it is my transport. It's my fare. Right? I have to pay rent. I have to pay electricity. Look at the tokens. So the 600 shillings has to make me grow. What you are saying is this. The Hustler Fund is a very good idea, but wrongfully executed. A very good idea, but wrongfully executed.
What needs to change?
What needs to change is the approach. For example, let me say we are talking about fintechs, right? If you go to companies like Tala or Cash and the rest, they tell you 30% of the money that they invest in the fintech get lost. Because there are people who go there with an interest of not paying back. Okay. Do we have the luxury of losing 30% of what has been invested in Hustler Fund? So what they're supposed to do, and I said earlier, we have MCEA, which is a government authority body. Why don't we do census and say, if you want the Hustler Fund, register with Huduma Center at this particular Intetu constituency. We are having a registration of businesses so that we can cluster sectors. We say we can have, this sector has so many people, this sector has so many. So when you are making policies and you are injecting money to those people, you are giving money to the rightful hustlers, to the rightful business people.
You haven't had these conversations with the CS MSMEs?
No, CS? Who is CS of trade?
MSMEs.
We have had this conversation.
And?
We have had...
Sam, nobody listens.
Let me educate Karanja a little bit about the Hustler.
We have had this conversation. We have had even proposals of this conversation, right? But you see now, if you see the execution of it, your voice was not heard, was not implemented, then what do you do? And let me say this, Sami. The real hustlers ni huyu mtu wa pikipiki. The real hustlers ni mama mboga. But the real but the people who are borrowing this money, some of them are even students. They don't even sell the njugus that we are saying. They borrow the money they eat. That's why we have a lot of defaults, right? Because if you want to give money to the right person, you must narrow down to that person. Even use organized groups like, even go to Wangige Market. here in Kikuyu. The chairman is part of us. When you go to Wangige market, you are going to find that they are very organized. They even have photos of their traders. Why don't we use the Hustler Fund? You know, that office come and say, now you as the market people, the Hustler Fund is here. You have already registered. This is your name. This is your stall. How much money do you need? We need 2,000 shillings. This is the application of the government. Hata kama uko na kabambe, if you have a smartphone, this is how you are going to go about it. We start from the organized groups.
Right.
But when you throw it up to everybody, everybody is going to borrow money. Nobody is going to be reached. And whatever the government wanted to achieve is not going to be achieved.
Okay.
Because we can't even feel the 36 billion shillings that has already been injected in the economy. We must feel it. We don't feel it. That's why you're seeing people.
All right. I have Senator and Honorable Wandeto here. Let me begin with you, Honorable Wandeto. Then come.
But it was my turn. Anyway, it's okay. It's okay.
I think I just wanted to educate Karanja, because I don't know. He said he is a chairman of the SME Alliance. Maybe he represents a slightly bigger SMEs, but there are a lot of businesses in this country that some you can start with 500 shillings. You can do with 1,000 shillings and so on and so forth. So it is not true that the Hustler Fund is useless. Actually, we've had very many testimonials of young traders who say, this has been their lifeline in terms of, running their businesses. The other wisdom of the Hustler Fund was to remove bureaucracy. What Karanja here is suggesting is that we create committees where people will go register, where people will go and be vetted, where people will go and apply. And the aim of the Hustler Fund was to democratize finance by ensuring that it is your credit history, which can be determined by very many factors using technology today. That is what we are applying to basically determine the amounts that you can get. And some people are now starting to get as much as 50,000. The next phase of the Hustler Fund, as you are aware, is now organized groups to ensure that people can even access much more, larger organizations. And there's even a phase 3 where we will be targeting, cooperatives and other groups and, and inject money. So it's a very well thought out program. And I think it will have impact. So I would not like, my brother here to mislead the public in terms of the effect of the Hustler.
Can I respond to that?
Just hold on, Senator.
Yes. Assume that what my brother is saying is true. If you see the latest report in the next, I think, 2 months, the debt ceiling is going to be recapped, and we are going to borrow an extra 4 trillion shillings. In a period of 1.5 years, Kenya is going to get into debt to the tune between 4 and 6 trillion shillings.
How do you know that?
Data's come out. I have it here. I'll give it to you before we get out of here. And Sammy, I never say a lie. I told you on this show, look at what they have done with the fuel. There was no deal struck about G to G for fuel.
It has been extended.
Let me tell you, that was a hoax. The reality is, when you have a government-to-government agreement, what is the discount they negotiated? That is why you get into a government-to-government negotiation. That was a hoax. Look at what has come out in cooking oil. In fact, the only thing I support President William Ruto about is him saying, let us introduce that oil-producing plants in many parts of Kenya so that we can begin to be independent, because cooking oil is one of our largest items for external importation. Look at what has happened to the fertilizer. The president should immediately be coming out and telling us where he's going to set up the fertilizer. Has he negotiated? We want to observe that contract so that we don't bring in a manufacturing assembly plant which will be selling fertilizer at 10,000. These are the issues we are dealing with. And my brothers here are refusing to accept the reality we have. That you look at what is happening at the universities. University students are going to college. They don't know how much money they are going to pay. They don't know what their fees are going to be. The parents are poor. They can't even afford a single meal. You are telling somebody, go to university, register. After that, we'll see what to do. I mean, every single policy that this government has picked. And Sammy, we are not being petty. What we are telling them is, give us 2 things that are successful right now. Whether it is these industrial parks which are coming, whether it is appropriate housing you're talking about. Look at what happened in Buxton in Mombasa. That has nothing to do with the national government. But I saw the president congratulating Shabal. The people who've been staying in Buxton, 3/4 of them have been denied capacity to settle in that place. So if Buxton is a problem the way it is, what is going to happen when you're building 200,000 houses in Kenya? How are you going to handle it? There is no clarity. So, Sammy, what we are saying, and this is what we keep begging our friends in government, can you even pick 3 items and just work on them. One of them, can you come either with an economic stimulus policy? How you going to do it? That is why you pay very expensive economic advisors and people who can advise the government on what to do. Once you introduce certain things economically, it's understood. There is always a multiplier effect. There is always a change in the economic parameters.
Okay.
It is so simple. And yet, Sam, every single day, instead of my brothers who are in government, and I love this guy, I am not passing aspersions on him, but your team is corruption. This corruption that, look at the recruitment of police officers, look at the recruitment of teachers. Why can't you just say every sub-county we are giving you this number of teachers?
Recruitment of teachers was marred with corruption.
What do you mean? Everybody's complaining about it. Everybody's complaining how these members,
my good brother
wait, how members of the National Assembly were given positions and many of them were being sold, many of them were being shared amongst relatives and friends. Me, I got 2 and I gave them out. I got 2.
From where?
From one of them. How I got it, I'll tell you later.
Because
Sammy, the truth is, why don't we have a government policy that values meritocracy so that a young man who has got a B+ who wants to go to the army,
Senator,
who qualifies,
Senator,
gets the job?
How did you get 2 jobs for teachers?
What do you mean?
How?
That one is a secret.
It's actually an illegality.
No, just hold on.
I will tell you later.
You're
I
a
got it
senator.
from one of his friends.
How would you
I
get?
am not aware of
and
any.
I wouldn't want to-
Some allow me to correct
And
this,
I
because the
wouldn't
senator
want-
has
and I
said,
wouldn't want-
senator has said some very serious things.
What I am saying,
What about that?
every single thing we are talking about, Sam, is the inability of our country to govern itself well. We are constantly and permanently disorganizing, mismanaging, stealing, and basically handling everybody as if nobody went to school.
You know, Senator, what is interesting is that actually you allocated teachers' slots.
No, I participated in the corruption of making sure I get those 2 positions.
Sorry?
Yes.
He participated in the corruption to ensure.
Yes, Sam. The positions of military guys and all these things, they are sold out here in the market. That's not a secret. You mean Citizen TV cannot do a private investigative story? Come, I give you.
Some give me 30 seconds to respond to only 2 issues.
I will do that.
Very,
Let me
very
first
quick.
take a look at the feedback. I need
Very
to
quick.
breathe. I need to look at Citizen TV Kenya, Sam Gituku, what you're saying on X, not Twitter. Where do we begin? This is Engineer Lazaro. You're saying that Honorable Wandeto, government seems to be burying its heads in the sand. Rate of unemployment is the single biggest security threat than even Al-Shabaab. Nation will still experience influx of unemployed youth due to high cost of doing business. Okay, Mwalimu, it's unfortunate that Kenya Kwanza regime has thrown out its campaign pledges to the bin. To add salt to the injury, Kenya Kwanza luminaries with inflated egos have resorted to insensitive sentiments. They have managed to downgrade living standards of hustlers within a year. Now Uhuru alituon. Okay. Bobo Tiano, we came from under economic hardship followed by election losers, maandamanos, has really slowed growth of the country, and the current regime needs time and peaceful environment to make things right. J.M. Osoma, you're saying that unemployment in Kenya is a time-taking bomb because of the job market cannot absorb majority of the graduates from institutions of higher learning. Crime, drug abuse, HIV and AIDS, infections and teenage pregnancies will soon be on the rise. Ooh, how unfortunate that would be. I want us to close because you are practically out of time. So let me take closing remarks, beginning with Samuel Karanja as they come that direction.
Thank you. Let me rectify something. I don't want to be misquoted by Mheshimiwa.
Yep.
I didn't say Hustler Fund is useless. I said Hustler Fund is a very good idea, wrongfully executed. That's what I said.
Okay.
If they have innovative ways of doing it, we can sit down with them as people who elected them, plus many other associations who have better ways of how they can execute it. Lastly but not least, Sami, when we critique the government, we don't do that because we are in Azimio or we are in the opposition. We do that because we elected you to go and work for us there. And as the private sector, you have been correcting the government and telling them we are partners in this. We are willing to pay taxes. But as you are paying taxes, let's get value for what you are paying for. And as the business sector, as MSME Alliance of Kenya, plus other associations, we want to have sittings with the government. Let's have sittings with them. Let them listen to us. But you do not want to see the arrogance that has been there. You know, when you want to talk to the government, it's like they know, the government is not omniscient. They do not know everything. It's in partnership that you're going to grow this economy. Lastly but not least, let's make sure that we grow the local manufacturing. We cannot grow this economy by taxation. We can only grow this economy through production. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Honorable Wandeto,
yes.
Your closing remarks as you reflect.
Just to quickly correct what Senator Onyonka said here, that we are planning to borrow 4 trillion. There is no such plan. The current debt level, Sam, is about 9.1, 9.2 trillion. We expect to borrow.
It's not, Honorable Wandeto.
Some again, these are the statistics as of January 2023 were at 9.1.
No, in April,
say right now.
In April it was 9.6 trillion.
Yeah,
exactly.
Let's even say currently
there's a very high chance that it's past 10
yeah.
We have since borrowed 2 trillion.
Yeah, and there's no 2 trillion that has been borrowed. At maximum, the budget deficit that we are dealing with is about 700 billion. So even if we were to borrow all the 700 billion, which we do not intend to, that would only take the budget, the debt level to about 10 and a half. So it is not true. I think just my closing remark, Sam, is to say that, obviously as a country, there are certain things that we need to do. And one of the things that I agree with my colleagues is what we see as, the issues of corruption, the issues of wastage within government. I think based on the economic times that we are living in, I think we all have a responsibility, government, private sector, to all ensure that, we stem corruption, we stem wastage, so that we can be able to spare the scarce resources that we have to be able to move the country through, this difficult time, especially as the world goes through, especially this shocking energy, cost, which is good to explain to the Kenyans that it is not just, it's not really a Kenyan issue. We are not trying to say it's not affecting us, but we have all these external shocks coming in. How do we tighten our belt to be able to ride the storm?
Sammy, can I?
Sorry, tighten belts. That includes?
And that includes even
the price will go up.
Reducing wastage and corruption.
The price will go up. Moses Kuria said by next year.
How about expenditure? Because the front page of the Standard, the Daily Nation talks about Treasury seeks additional 140 billion shillings to pay salaries.
Expenditure, Sam, creates production. When the government spends, we assume that it leads to higher productivity.
Recurrent expenditure never raises.
It does, Senator. Today,
recurrent expenditure never raises production. That is why it's called recurrent.
Hold on. It does.
Allow him.
When you pay an agricultural extension officer a salary, what is he doing? Advising a farmer to improve productivity. When you pay a doctor a salary, what is he doing? Ensuring a healthy nation so that people can be able to work.
How about when you travel
trying to say that recurrent expenditure does not include productivity. Sorry?
How about when you travel to the country with many...
If you come with knowledge, with knowledge and ideas, it improves productivity. What I've said, Sam, is that if people are going abroad on trips which have no agenda, that one I agree 100% with Senator Onyonka. We must tame, wastage in government. We must be able to tame corruption. On those two, I agree. And I've said about this over and over and over again. That is the only way we can get this economy on a sound footing. Thank you.
Senator.
Sammy, when I listen to my brother talking, I totally support him because he's in government. But I want to give him the other alternative. And I want to tell you, Sammy, here. By the way, I will send you the details about how much money we are borrowing and how much we are going to borrow in the next 2 months. It's a World Bank report now, and that's what the Kenyan government has asked for. Sammy, this is the problem we have with our country. Take the LAP fund, money is being stolen. Go to the sports fund, money is being stolen. Go to housing, nobody knows, nobody has the clarity of what the government is doing. Look at the retirement fund. There is no retirement fund right now other than the private sector, which you can put your fingers on and say, if you retire today, you get paid if you are a university lecturer. Zero. Look at the education fund. Nothing is working. Go down. Talk about what we are doing with our military. APCs, the armored personnel carriers we are supposed to use, which our people are supposed to be using in fighting the Al-Shabaab. And this problem is not with President William Ruto. Look at how our soldiers are being killed. They don't have the goddamn equipment for them to go and fight where they're supposed to be fighting. Look at our fuel prices. People go and negotiate a fuel price, which is fake. They are sharing their commissions. They come and give us more costing on the fuel. They tell us it was government to government expenditure. Government purchase. Which discount did you get when you are negotiating? That is the discount men are sharing. We are not children anymore. These are the issues that are making our country look like a banana republic. Let the government put policy into place. But you know, I want to repeat it here. When you see David Ndii talk, David Ndii is my friend, and we don't talk on economic matters because we agreed we are on both either side. He is saying, I can't help this nonsense which is going on. People are stealing money, people are buying deals, guys are buying houses in Karen, somebody's buying a house for 290 million with 16 bedrooms. What is wrong with us? What happened to us? There are no medicines in hospitals. County governors are doing the same. You have the National Assembly. If the government is not going to take control, those youths that you saw who are going to look for jobs, they will walk into the streets, and you are not going to stop them.
Jim Rosemouthie says that Sam, it is true that what the senator is saying about the teachers' recruitment, corruption all over, no interviews in schools like before, employment letters were given out like campaign kickbacks. Sad.
Yes.
Odoro Jr. is saying that it is true that TSC jobs are being sold, and as a teacher, I have no chance because they are given to MPs and government leaders who work with the letters and give to those they know only. If that be true, it's a very unfortunate reality.
It is true.
Some in my constituency, we employed 43 teachers.
You see.
And they all, I want to explain.
How did he employ 43
sorry.
and I can't employ 2 in Kisii County?
Senator, we are closing.
Let me, and they all went through the proper job interview.
There was no preferential treatment.
There was no job
No,
interview.
it was fresh recruitment.
There was none.
There was a portal
People
opened by
applied.
TSC. They
Okay.
applied. Actually, we facilitated a workshop to train them how to fill, those. And it was done actually by TSC. We called them.
There was no criteria.
And
the
43
people
of
were
them,
given positions as to how they are known in government.
3 of them have been employed. So I do not know which are these are the things that Onyonka is talking about. And if he is himself getting letters on the streets, he needs to be careful. They call illegal letters.
I've had enough. The data from the Cabinet Secretary in charge of MSMEs and cooperatives, that is Simon Chelugui, as of 13th of September, which is last week, say that there are some groups that have been created, 458,000 of them had been created. Members that are pending approval are 518,000. Those approved are 1 million. Total complete groups are 47,000. Notice the difference. The groups whose limit had been set were 37,000. Complete groups to be assigned limits were 10,500. The loan requests pending member approval are 3,460. Amounts disbursed as of that day was 147.8 million shillings. And of course, the total disbursements count was 20,000. And members in those benefited groups were 264,000. And there's some figures on savings and the total repayments.
We're getting there.
Just some information that is available. Just to note that to the groups, it's only 147 million shillings that has been lent out. A bit of it has been paid back. A bit of it is still pending. I have to thank you, Honorable Jeffrey Wandeto from Tetu.
Thank you.
Senator Richard Onyonka from Kisii County.
Thank you, sir.
And Samuel Karanja, MSME Alliance. I hope you enjoyed your time here.
I'll give you.
My name is Sam Gituku. Bye for now.
I'll bring in two letters of the army from the street.